Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in again live today. It is Monday, May 6th, and it is noon here on the East Coast of the United States. And you are watching the 150th episode of the Skill Building Monday drawing group here live on the Reinventing the Tattoo channel. My name is Jason Leeser. I will be your host for today, and welcome to IHN's Reinventing the Tattoo community, where tattooers, collectors, apprentices, and the curious are encouraged to join in these live streams, real world events, to share, inspire, and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. We beam out nearly every day, and with your help, have evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on demand tattoo and art shows that have all receiving great reviews. You can find Reinventing the Tattoo at www.reinventingthetattoo.com. You can get it out for free. You do not have to subscribe right away. We do offer 3 different options for you to go through and try it out. The first option is to take a sample webinar from the Reinventing the Tattoo canon. Our second option is to get some free advice from Guy Aitchison about your unique goals. And the third option is to take a comprehensive tattoo history course from Jay Brown for fellow tattoo hitters such as myself. You cannot go wrong with the tattoo history course. It is extremely comprehensive and goes into a lot of nitty-gritty detail that we all really like to know about working in this field. As well, at reinventingthetattoo.com, you can also find a full event schedule with links to full weekly and special event live stream details. For example, if you wanted to jump into today's session, you could navigate over to www.reinventingthetattoo.com, click on the events area, and you will find a calendar. In the calendar, you will see today's show listed. And in that listing, you will find a direct link to join us here live during this broadcast. As well, at Reinventing the Tattoo, you can also find access to the Reinventing 24/7 channel, which has 13 different episodes at any given time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also find access to a whole host of professional development courses from over 20 world-class tattoo artists, all available pay-per-view on demand at www.reinventingthetattoo.com. You also find us in both of the app stores, the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, as well as our Reinventing Tattoo YouTube channel, our Reinventing Tattoo Roku channel, which, just like the Reinventing 24/7 channel, has 12 to 15 different episodes playing at any given time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and is accessible on all Roku-enabled devices. So you might want to give that a shot. You can also find us in all of the podcast directories, such as Apple and Spotify. You can do what most people do and just pull up your web browser and do a quick search for Reinventing the Tattoo, and all of that and a whole lot more will pop up, except for the book, which is still currently out of print, so you will not be able to find a copy of that anywhere. If you do come across a copy and it is for sale, please notify me. Let me know. I would like to purchase it. Once again, if this is working for you, please let us know. Drop us a comment. Tag a friend who loves tattoos. We're always trying to get more people in here to take a look at this, whether they do tattoos or they're interested in tattoos, or maybe they're just an artist. Tag everyone you know that you think might be interested. Really helps us out with that. As well, make sure to click that like and subscribe button at the bottom of the page. That way you can be notified about all upcoming future broadcasts coming through on this channel. With a number of weekly staple shows we always encourage people to tune into, starting off on Mondays at 9 a.m., we have Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom, where we get to go through and get back to our core essence of being a fine artist in this tattoo industry. And that helps us get back to that, because we do a lot of discussion about basic drawing techniques and strategies, perspective, color theory, a lot of these fine art principles that you see a lot of artists incorporating into their tattoos in this day and age. And that's Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom, 9 a.m. Monday mornings. Following that, you have this show, which is the skill building Monday drawing group. And that takes place every Monday at noon. Of course, that's also dependent on whether or not I am traveling, driving at the time. If I'm driving back from a show, I probably will not be hosting this show. But just about every other time that I am in town, absolutely 100%, I will be here. And this is noon on Mondays. Following this, capping off Monday evenings at 9 p.m., we have a subscribers exclusive drawing group with Sandy McAndrew from the Reinventing where if you do have a subscription to either the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon, the Reinventing the Tattoo Evolution, or a subscription to the Monday evening drawing group courses, all of which you do have to pay for. But with all of those subscriptions, you do have access to the Monday evening drawing groups. I can tell you from firsthand experience, from doing them for about 2 years, you will notice a marked difference in the quality of work and the way that you think about things just by attending the Monday evening drawing groups. It has absolutely changed the way that I do everything. So I cannot stress that enough. Following that, on Tuesdays at 11 a.m., we have the Tattoo Weekly Show with Gabe Ripley, Lauren Gregory, and Fawn Baker from Red Tree Gallery, where we get to go through and discuss all of the major current events coming up in the tattoo industry, such as legislation, policy procedures, maybe it's new exciting things going on in the convention circuit, or any type of other interesting news that you may want to pay attention to. Once again, that's Tuesdays at 11 a.m., the Tattoo Weekly Show. Following that, on Wednesdays at noon, we have the Tattoo Now Show with Gabe Ripley, where we get to do a deeper dive into the business aspect behind tattooing. Maybe it's client retention, or maybe we're discussing travel visas or marketing strategies. Maybe we're looking at employee retention. All of these, a lot more. Anything business related, you can probably find in the Tattoo Weekly Show, and that is, the Tattoo Now Show, and that is Wednesdays at noon with Gabe Ripley. And capping off the week on Thursdays at 6 p.m. of the Tattoo Collecting 101 podcast with Fawn Baker from the Red Tree Gallery. And that is a great place where we all go through and share some of our stories about the tattoos that we've collected. Now, we do have a number of special live events coming up, which we will all be live, starting off May 17th through 19th, and that is in 11 days. Wow, awesome. And that is going to be Columbus, Ohio at the Hell City Tattoo Convention. And we have got an all-star lineup of tattoo artists that will be working at Hell City this year. Special guests include Paul Booth, the master of darkness himself. Oh, love it. Can't wait to watch him work. Derb Morrison, the legendary Joe Capobianco, Jimmy Litwalk, Nico Perez, Ty McEwen, James Vaughn, Jesse Levitt, Ron Earhart, Marshall Bennett, and of course, yours truly will also be there tattooing as well. I still have 1 or 2 appointment spots available. So if you're looking to get tattooed at Hell City, you need to find an artist. By all means, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to get you in. Following that, June 23rd through 25th, also in Columbus, Ohio, we have the first Tattoo-preneur Conference, the Tattoo Entrepreneurship Conference, which will be a lot more business focused. But we have, and that will be at the Red Tree Gallery, and that is in Columbus, Ohio, and that will be co-hosted by Dark Age Studios, and that will be 3 days of business, art, and tattoo seminars with Bob Tyrell, Haley Adams, Jake Meeks from the Fireside Tattoo Network, James Wisdom, Rember, and myself included, and that will be June 23rd through 25th. Would like to go through, take a minute to thank some of our sponsors and some of the people that make these shows happen. Starting off with WorldTattooEvents.com, the largest comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. They're constantly keeping everything updated. As we know, living in this post-pandemic era, there might still be certain events or conventions that are getting rescheduled. So if you want to stay up to date with the latest, most to convention or event information coming to a city or town near you, or maybe it's one you plan on visiting. That's how I tend to book all my vacations. Take a look at worldtattooevents.com. Would also like to thank tattoonow.com, technology for tattooers, leading edge in professional development, management, and digital tools for tattooers of all levels. They are 100% competitive with a type of CRM, client resource management, mailing list, or scheduling software out there. So if you are looking to really maximize the business aspect of your studio, or even just smoothing in the booking process for your clients, take a look at tattoonow.com. They have literally been doing this for over 20 years, and they have become masters at making you more efficient. Take a look at tattoonow.com. Would also like to thank the man, the myth, and the legend, Guy Aitchison. He is the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo. You can go to aitchison.com where you can pick up a copy of his Biomech Encyclopedia, some of his tutorial DVDs. I think he still has a few custom coil machines for sale, as well as countless fine art prints and the occasional oil painting for sale at guyaitchison.com. Would also like to go through and say a very quick and special thank you and shout out to Nicholas over at the Apprenticeship Diaries podcast. To me, this is one of the most important resources for tattoo apprentices and hopefuls out there. If you are looking for more information on becoming a tattoo apprentice or want to know more about what a tattoo is like, take a look at the Apprenticeship Diaries podcast with Amy Nichols. You will not be disappointed. As always, we ask that if you like today's show, please go through, post a positive review on the channel. Help us get the word out. If you would like to host a Reinventing the Tattoo event, become a sponsor of our community, or if you are looking for a fine art or a tattoo critique from some of the world's leading tattoo artists, take a look and email us at management@reinventingtattoo.com, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Kind of wraps up today's intro. Today I'm going to be discussing a couple of cool Procreate tips and tricks, as well as discussing the element of contrast. Hopefully I'm streaming okay. I know I've been having some Wi-Fi issues lately where things have been so if I'm not coming through perfectly clear, please let me know. Hopefully everyone can see everything. I don't think anyone else has decided to join us. Nope. Awesome. No new comments. Okay. Awesome. Well, if you would like a quick shout out on today's show, please, by all means, drop a comment with who you are, where you work, and where you're beaming in from. I know that we've got quite a few people that are tuning in from other places in the world. So please do not be shy to let us know about that, and we will definitely give you a plug. Yeah, awesome. So let me switch this over. Awesome. And I'm going to, let's see, I believe it's here. There we go. Wonderful. So today I'm actually working on a different art project. I just got done recovering my armrest at the studio the other day, and I've decided to go through and paint a little design on armrest itself. I'm actually working on a little sketch or design that I'm then going to transfer onto and paint on top of the armrest. This is where some of those Procreate tips, tricks, and hacks I mentioned just a minute ago are coming into play. I actually have my canvas set up so that it's mirrored, but it's not mirrored in the standard way that everyone like, oh, if I draw on one side, it's going to duplicate it on the other. I have mine set up so that it's set up in a rotational mirror. And this is going to come in real handy for doing a symmetrical design that's the same on both sides, but one side is flipped. And you'll start to see what I'm talking about as I start drawing. I've just decided to go with a couple of, you know, nothing crazy, maybe some basic Japanese waves. Um, so I'm just going to go through and start sketching and doodling and just seeing where things take me. Um, and I'll show you how everything gets mirrored in just a minute. This can be really helpful if you're creating something like some type of a backdrop that you want to be mirrored at the top and bottom. Um, sometimes you like to have the same element in both corners. Say you're working on a back piece and you want to kind of balance it out. This would be a quick and easy way to go through and kind of sketch something up so that you can have the exact same thing but facing two different ways. It's just a little trick that artists will utilize in order to create a little bit of a more interesting composition, or maybe add in some different elements that maybe they wouldn't be able to achieve otherwise. So I'm just kind of starting out with like a bit of S shape for these waves. Um, Not that I'm really sticking to any kind of a pattern or a flow. I'm just kind of doodling right now, just kind of warming up a little bit. Maybe I'll have something branching off the top there. Maybe I'll have, we'll curve this one in a bit more. I'll have a guy branching off in that direction. This one will be a little smaller, but we'll still give him that. Add a little guy in there. Maybe we'll have, let's see. Maybe we'll have another guy here, just kind of branching off up top, and this one will be splitting over there. Give that a little branch as well. This one can branch off of the bottom. Maybe a little guy branching off the top as well. I don't like that. Too busy on that side. This will take a little bit. Just a little guy here. And then we'll really start to curve this around. Really give it that rolling effect. Cool. So as you can see, right, I've drawn the exact same image, but it's rotated it. So it's flipped vertically over on the right side of the screen as I was drawing it on the left side of the screen. So we're actually going to take this, duplicate, delete. This is going to get a drawing assist. I'm going to switch this up a little bit. Maybe make this a bit smaller, even though I do want to keep these pretty big. To me, it's always a good thing to practice waves, water, and motion, because to me, waves have always been very tricky to draw, especially in more of a realistic sense. They've always posed a bit of a challenge for me, so I'm constantly always trying to draw them. And I've picked up a few tricks here and there on how to make them more realistic. Uh, but stylized waves can also be very tricky because you need to make sure that you keep them stylized. You can't get too realistic with them because they are very distinctive. And sometimes it can be kind of helpful to go through and keep them a lot more simplified and a lot more open. It's something that I have a big issue with, is making sure that I keep everything simple, because I have a very big tendency to overcomplicate and over busy everything that I draw. Um, it's a problem that I'm constantly trying to overcome. So I'm just always trying to simplify things down, draw bigger shapes, motion, um, keeping things a bit more simple. And to me, it's never, or to me, it's always beneficial to keep things a lot more simple, because you find that the more simple an image is, the easier it is for the eye to read it, and the easier it is for people to understand what the image is of. As someone way smarter than I am once said, you can't ever solve a problem by making it more complex. So I try to keep things a bit more simple. Helps me do some problem solving. Maybe I'll get rid of this part that I just sketched in there. Not a big fan of that. I'll just add another little wave line there. Once again, I'm just kind of roughing things in right now. I'm not even worrying about anything else. Just kind of getting a rough, loose concept, a rough, loose idea of how do I want these to look. Maybe I'll give this a little bit of a funky kind of undertone, because waves themselves are not perfect, not perfectly smooth in any direction. They're going to have bumps and twists and turns and everything like that. So I try to keep that in the back of my mind, usually for like the final version that I do. Maybe we'll even give this another little split. I always try to keep that in back, just the back of my head. And I usually add in other, bumps, some other little nooks and crannies, some other little splitting off parts, usually towards the the last the last draft or the last version. The first draft I draw of just about anything, to be honest with you, is usually one that gets thrown out, and I never even look at it, usually just because I'm not a big fan of it. But sometimes it's like, oh, that actually turned out pretty cool. So, it never hurts to hold on to your first draft, even if you know for a fact you don't like it and it's not right. And, you can do better. It's like, cool, do a second draft, but don't necessarily trash the first draft. I know that on personal experience, because as I've gone back through and looked at some of the sketches that I've been doing over the past few years, especially first drafts concepts, and then looking at the evolution of how that draft came to life, what it actually turned into. There are certain things that I'll look at and I'll say, oh, hey, that first draft I did actually wasn't very off or very bad or anything like that. It's like that actually wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad as I remember it to be. So, why did I not go with that? Oh, well, you know what? Maybe I'll use it for the next one if something else like this. It's always nice to be able to look back and reflect on where you've been, what you've done, and how things have evolved. So it also kind of helps you keep track of that. Then again, you don't want to end up with like 15 sketchbooks of stuff that you hate, from 15 years ago. They're just taking up room. So be conscious of space. If you're like me, you're more of a digital pack rat, can also be a problem because you're going to start to run out of room, especially on your iPads and devices and laptops and stuff like that. And that can pose a problem with performance. But there is definitely a way that you can back stuff up onto an external hard drive. And I recommend doing it at least a couple of times a year, just to be safe. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do it manually. It honestly can save your skin if you ever lose your iPad or it gets stolen or anything like that. Um, it's always good to have a backup. And if you don't feel like paying a monthly price to have it backed up online, to the cloud, right? Because No one really knows what the cloud is or where it is. The cloud just basically means someone else's hard drive. Um, and that's cool because, you can't ever lose the cloud. The cloud is everywhere. But if you're one of those holdouts that's like, no, I don't want to pay a monthly subscription, I want to have a physical copy of it, that's fine. There's always ways to go through and back things up externally. Uh, but if the external drive crashes, you're out of luck. Once again, not a huge fan of it, but I'm going to hold on to that layer anyway, and I'm going to do it again. Let's see. Where's my coffee? Maybe I want to take. Maybe I want to do something a little different. How can I do this differently? Let's hide that one as well. We'll come back here. Let's see. If I wanted to do this differently. So if I have crusting wave, all right. Maybe this will curl over there a little bit more. Maybe we'll have like a little splash or a second crest. I don't even know if I like this one. I'm always kind of, especially when I'm drawing landscape, it's always difficult for me to kind of figure out where do I want certain things to be and how do I really want to maximize base. That's always one of the biggest problems for me is maximizing the area given. Don't want to keep these super parallel, but I do still want them to all come back to that same cresting form of a wave. Maybe we'll have a little swell behind it. But then what do I do over here? Over here, we do. I could always just have an alternating crashing wave. This is a little trick, by the way, for those of you that are having problems drawing waves and making them look like they're cohesive. Start out with a dot. Put a dot anywhere on the page, right? And then just take all of these branches for these finger waves, bring them all back to that dot. And now you've got more of like radial lines that aren't going to be super parallel. Right? Because you're starting out with your dot and everything's connecting to that dot, and then from that dot, you branch off and create the flow. It's just a little trick I picked up. Maybe we'll go with Maybe just some peaks, some wave peaks. Nah. How do I want to do this? This is a lot more tricky than I originally had planned. Let's go through. We'll kind of trim that down a little bit. Let's do something at the corners. Just maybe do something at the corners. In which case, to get the rotational symmetry, by the way, and I'm not sure, turn off picture so you guys can see everything I'm doing on here. Well, hey, Creatures Cave. Awesome. Happy to hear that. Can't wait to see how it turns out. So from here, we'll go to quadrant. This rotational symmetry that you see down at the bottom right, I'm kind of turning it off and on right now. This is what's going to allow everything to move in a circle and rotate as it goes along the page. So that's kind of the trick that I was using to get that mirrored effect. So we're going to try this out and just see how it goes. Don't know if it'll go very well, but we'll give it a shot. So we'll start out with our dot. Yep, doesn't look like it's going to go very well. So we'll go back to horizontal. Cool. And then, once again, start with our dot. Maybe we'll just have a couple of waves coming out at the corners. That could be cool, right? On an armrest? That could be real cool. They're just like little accents. Nothing crazy. Kind of skipping a step here. Just already going through and doing my little squiggle lines. And then we'll come up here, drawing assist, good, check. So this is usually the second step that I do. I always like to do some squiggle lines where I'll start out with a heavy pressure and I'll just kind of like do like loops, texture in there. And it's usually gives me enough of a rough kind of concept that I can go through and really kind of tweak it from there. You know, some of them I probably keep a little bit smoother, but I'll even that out in the next little bit. And we'll create another layer. We'll drop the opacity down on this guy. And we'll go through. Keep it nice, do and rough. Not really worrying about anything. You know, if things end up too small, that's okay. We'll refine it again in the next bit. but I'm using these little squiggle lines that I produced a minute ago to go through and give me a little bit of that like bumpy texture to the waves. Now there's other people out there that'll see that and they'll be like, okay, cool. Here's a little line, here's a little line, here's a little part. Here's this. Maybe here's another one. Maybe this will curve around. Here's another little guy. And they can use this to help create that irregular kind of wave pattern. So it's just another way to do things. Me, I like, especially for what I'm doing here, I'm going to want to keep it a little bit more loose and a little bit bigger. So I'm just kind of going through and maybe doing a couple of double lines just to give me a rough concept of how I want these waves to look. Anywhere that I have a double line, because of the way I have my brush set up, you're going to see a darker area where things overlap. And that's exactly what I want. That one didn't work out. So maybe we will give that a little jut there. A little sharpen. Wave crash action. I always like to keep things super loose and sketchy as I'm like developing a concept, because you can always refine it later on. And I've often found that if you go through and you work a little bit looser with your shapes, with your motions, with your lines and your areas and how you want things to work, and you build it up and you refine it, you think it's going to take you a lot longer because you're creating more layers and a little bit more work, because it's like, okay, I just did another layer. Now I have to refine that layer. Now I have to refine that layer. And now I have to refine that layer. So you would think that it's going to take you a long, right? But if you sit down and you actually time it out, in my opinion, for the way that I work and the things that I'm doing, it actually makes me work faster because I'm solidifying concepts first instead of going through and getting hung up in a lot of the tiny little details that are in it and trying to figure out, okay, well, this didn't work right. Doesn't this look right? I mean, the details are there, but it doesn't have the look and feel that I'm going for. So what am I not doing right? Now I have to go back through and start from scratch. It just ends up taking me a lot longer if I go through and try to work it through straight through first time. So I try to keep things loose, nice and sketchy. The more sketchy it is, the better. Lately, I've been doing a drawing exercise where, try not to lift your pencil up off the paper or the iPad. And you just try to go through and keep everything on the paper all at the same time, or the iPad. And just try to like sketch it out and rough it out without lifting your Apple Pencil off. Now, that can create some issues, especially if you're like me and you like to use as many different undos as possible. Um, two finger clicks and all that stuff. If you're like me, you would like to be able to have that option, then maybe it's not the best, because if you do one undo, it's going to wipe out the whole thing. So might want to just be a little cautious of that. So Some little crushing waves in there. Maybe we will make this guy a little taller. And then this one will curve back a little more. So next layer, same thing, drawing assist. Now that we have it a little bit more refined, we're going to drop this down. I'll switch over to something else. Here's my kind of smooth. There we go. So I do have a little bit of streamline enabled on this guy. And the reason being is because I want it to be kind of smooth, but I still want to have some of that jitter and some of that expression in there. Because that's really going to allow me to create the kind of bubbles and textures and little like flow that I'm really looking for. Because if it was super smooth and I had a lot of streamline on, a lot of stabilization, I would not be able to get half of the expression into this as I would like. And sometimes having those really expressive points where, you know, like you really want to kind of accent and move quickly through this rough, like, I don't know, draft, sketch, whatever. Sometimes when you have that much stabilization and pressure on there, it's not going to allow you to have some of the nice, sharp, little expressive irregularities that you really want when you're trying to draw something that's in nature, because nature by itself is not regular. You know, look at flower petals, for example. Flower petals are not perfect. They are not precise. They are not exactly regular. They are very different on every single flower. Draw a flower that has perfect petals for every petal, and all petals are ideal proportions and size. It's not going to be super realistic because, you know, flowers aren't realistic. They're not regular. They're not consistent. They are, each one is different, and each petal is different on each different flower. Just because I want to maintain proportions and visual weight of these waves, I'm actually going to cut some of these waves off a little bit. Change their angle slightly. Get that like a little hollow, little gap. Good. Lately, I've been studying a lot of waves coming out from different parts of Asia. A lot of in Thailand are drawing waves differently. A lot of people in Singapore draw waves differently. A lot of people in China draw waves differently. So I'm trying to get a better understanding of keeping the essence of the style, you know, and still working on my technique as well, you know, and just trying to see what varieties are out there. You know, there's something that someone's doing that I really like. You know, maybe they're focused more on one large wave that's crashing as opposed to having a whole little fractured, little splintered bits of water coming off of it. Maybe they're taking a more outside or more elevated view of crashing waves and water than I am, and that's give it a different look. And this we'll just cap off. Draw some accent lines in here just to help break it up a little bit. That could just like some dueling waves on each side. I could just draw a big waveform, but that might not be the best idea. There we go. So we're actually going to take these and group these as draft 2. This be draft 1. Right? Hide draft 1, hide draft 2. Let's do a third draft. What I was mentioning before about focusing on a much larger single wave. Let's explore that a little bit. So if we have a much larger waveform, we're not really going to see too much of the little bits of it. We're really going to focus more on the overall shape. So we might see a couple of little guys where it branches. But we're not going to have quite as much detail. So this would end up being something along the lines of something like this, and then maybe this would flow back. This would flow a little differently. Not quite as complex. And then that would come down there. This would be a little bit more simple. Maybe you have like another little peak. All right. good. Maybe focus more on like a larger body. So you're not going to notice quite as many individual fingers of the finger wave. It's going to be a much smooth, much larger form with not quite as many exaggerated fingers on the finger wave. That's what I was trying to get to. Um, but it is a different way to draw waves. And you'll see that a lot with certain guys coming out of Taiwan and other various parts of Asia as opposed to Japan and China. But I do kind of like this bit of a rough form that I have going on, so I am continue to work on this a tiny bit. Maybe I'll start out with maybe no, we'll just make this a bigger wave form, and that can come over into here. This would end up being left open. That'll give us that sense of, maybe we'll even add that there. Yeah, playing around with it's always a fun thing to do. If this part's coming up here, we can add that coming down here. Even add a couple of other little circles. Then that'll create like bridges inside the water. We'll add another little guy there. That'll give us some depth on the inside. And now we've already created like a bit of a backflow or a backsplash kind of an effect. So, I mean, you can really have fun with it. That's why I enjoy drawing water so often, because you can really get it to do incredible things. And if you can really draw water well, it's definitely an accomplishment because it's not easy. But doing all this kind of stuff, once again, overcomplicating things for what I'm trying to achieve. Um, as much as I do love getting complex with stuff, I need to focus on simplifying. That's the goal. Simplify. So we're going to do some bigger forms, bigger shapes, bigger curls. We're going to keep everything very, very big and simple. It's a little too static. By static, what I mean is it's a little too vertical. Ideally, what you want is something more diagonal. When you work with more diagonal shapes, I was explaining something the other day. When you work with diagonal shapes and diagonal lines, it creates a sense of motion and movement to the human eye. And one of the things that when you start to pick up on that, you can't ever unsee it, and you'll start to see it everywhere and in everything, because that's kind of a visual little trick that many, many, many years ago, the great Renaissance masters used to utilize to move your eye around the piece and get you to focus exactly where they want you to look, as opposed to going through and maybe trying to take in everything. We're like, oh, we want you to look at this spot over here, on this part of the painting that we did, and here's how we're going to get you to do that. And that's one of the things that they would do. They would focus on really utilizing diagonal lines and diagonal elements to really move your eye throughout a piece. And it's fascinating how, once you understand that, you start to see it in all of these different aspects of art. Everything from advertisements to um, video commercials and stuff like that. You'll start to see diagonal movement in everything. And when you start to realize that it's forcing you to look at certain spots, you then become conscious of all of those places that they don't want you to look. So it kind of gives you a little bit of an insight. So I'm going to be working on this for just a little bit longer. I hope everyone has been having a great day. Don't know how many people we still got on here, but if you want me to give you a little shout out, I'll be happy to just go through and drop a chat with your name, where you work, and where you're beaming in from. I'll be happy to mention it and give you a little shout out here on the show. If there's ever anything that you want to discuss on here, by all means, please feel free to jump in, and I will be happy to let you in and talk about pretty much anything you want to talk about. Well, tattoo or art related, of course. But another thing that you'll also start to see people utilize as an aspect of fine the golden spiral and the golden ratio, which is in all successful works of art to an extent. Especially in Renaissance paintings, we'll notice that things are done by the divine proportion with a golden golden spiral or golden rectangle incorporated into the concept of the layout, into the concept of the design, whether it was conscious or not, uh, because it forces you, once again, put emphasis and recognize what is where. Maybe we'll have like one little guy back there, Cliff. It's all about getting people to look and see what you want them to see. And we'll refine this a little bit more. It's weird. I think I've brought this up on a couple of different shows where, everyone that draws waves kind of has their own signature fingerprint so that no two artists' waves look exactly the same. You can go through and you can pick out Horiyoshi waves, or you can take a look at waves drawn by Blue, or you can look at waves drawn by Denny Bernard out in San Diego, or Terry Rivera. Andre Malcolm has a unique style of waves that he enjoys drawing. And everyone's got their own footprint on how they like to do things. And part of the way that they develop that is by doing nothing but drawing their own style and their own way of doing it for so long that they've mastered the concept of it and they've understood the topic to such an extent that it to them it's just second nature. It's like, oh, you need a wave, cool, here, boom, couple of little doodle lines, next thing you know, it's perfect. And you're like, but how did you do that? But when you spend hours and hours and hours doing nothing but drawing one specific topic, you become really good at it, and then it becomes muscle memory. So anytime I find myself lacking in maybe it's drawing waves, or maybe it's a snake or a dragon or something like that. I'll go back through and I'll re-educate myself with the muscle memory needed to sit down and go, oh, yeah, dragon, I got that. I can draw dragon heads real quick, real fast, because I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours drawing. Snakes, yeah, I studied those and how to draw those for quite a few years. It took like 2.5 years to really grasp snakes, how to draw them, the way that their bodies move. Um, but it became almost like an obsession. That, and I just like snakes. I think they're cool. But just me. Maybe from here we'll have, maybe it's a wave that's splashing. And we'll draw some more radials. So, once again, this is me overcomplicating things, not necessarily focusing on solving the problem, just getting sidetracked. I could have one there, one here. Cool. Good. And then this can taper down, and we can do like a smaller guy here, and this will be a much smaller guy. We've just drawn some flashing waves. Not exactly what I was going for, but it turned out that way, and it doesn't look half bad. Get rid of that last one. Cresting and splashing. Maybe we could even tuck this in here and then give this a, we follow this, we can give this some counterflow, follow that. Right now we've got like a whole wave scene going on with splashing and crashing waves. Obviously, this stuff in the background or anything that's going counter to the design that I just drew wouldn't be there, because that would be obscured by the wave. But it's a good way for us to transition into maybe another element, or maybe going behind something, or showing where that water is coming, because our eye is naturally going to want to go. Yeah. Cool. So our eye right now is moving in this direction with the water being brought back down around here. And we see these crashing waves, and then we have our eye being brought back in this direction because of the movement of these guys. So it's drawing us all into like centralized point over here. But it's moving our eye around the piece, and it's moving our eye into a central area and creating that concept of visual motion. That's exactly what I was planning on. So let's see. We'll go back over here. That'll be it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. This was episode 150. Thank you for everyone that keeps watching and tuning into this. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the honor of allowing me to go through and do these shows for everyone. It's something I take very lightly, and it's something that I'm very proud to do for all of you. And it is a great honor. So thank you very much for that. I do plan to continue doing these for a little while. I think I'm on year number 3 of doing these shows. I need to plan on doing it for at least a while longer. So thank you very much for watching today. Everyone at the Reinventing Tattoo team, thank you. I appreciate all the work that you guys do and everything that you do, and I can't be more thankful for it. So thank you guys very much. Hope you guys picked up something today. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with any new shows or episodes coming. Until next Monday, which is, I forget the date off the top of my head, but I'm assuming it's going to be something like the 14th or 13th. Until then, hope everyone stays safe. Keep those hands moving, keep sketching, keep drawing every chance you get. And I will catch everyone again next Monday at noon here live on the Reinventing the Tattoo Network for the Building Day Drawing Group. Thanks a lot, everyone. Cheers. Where's the